I don't know, no. I need like a dude. Or a towel, maybe. Okay. Isn't this so cute? Perfection. Cheers, you guys. I found that little bottle, and it was around Valentine's Day, and I ended up making every one of my coworkers and some of my friends these little baskets. I'll have a bunch of cookies I had made and little handwritten valentines and all this stuff, and I put one in these in all of their goodie bags. I have a lot of free time now. I almost made it a YouTube video, but I was like, I'm not gonna do that, but if you're interested in that in the future, let me know. Anyway, let's get ourselves nice and comfortable. Grab yourselves a nice cuddly blanket, a nice glass of apparently Prosecco, perhaps a coffee, a green tea, a sleepy time tea, maybe a joint, whatever you need to get cozy, cuddly, and ready for bed. And we're going to be diving into the case of Katie and Stephen Plattle. And I'd like to get into some requested videos soon, so if you guys would like to reach out to me on Instagram, or you can leave a comment below, but Instagram Angelica.joy, and I will get it. I'll see it quicker. We can get to you guys some nice requested content out. But as for today's video, warning, it is so creepy. This story is disgusting. It has a lot to do with incest, so if that makes you incredibly uncomfortable, see you next week, I guess. Maybe chime in for like a conspiracy theory video or something else, but that is heavy. That is the theme of today's video, so yeah, for those ready to stay for it, I mean, hey. that she's my stepmom now. WTF. He doesn't even want me to say or call her sister when she is. Katie is my sister. She's probably his wife now, but in nature, she's my sister. I wonder if she sees me as a daughter or a sister. Sometimes she yells at me and says, "Get the F up." Yeah. So at the beginning, she's kind of talking about how she loved her, and now she's like, what the hell? This is incredibly confusing. So, Alyssa had read this journal entry in her daughter's diary and said that she began to go completely hysterical. She said she felt sick, called him, confronting him, saying, "What the F? This is your daughter. Is this true?" And he said, "Oh, I thought you knew. We're in love." And she started screaming, cursing him out, and it ended up actually calling the police. So on July 20th of 2017, 2 months after his divorce from Alyssa was finalized, and amidst an investigation, Stephen and Katie ended up getting married. They had lied on their application, saying they were unrelated to records. And Katie wore a short black dress, and her adopted parents actually attended the wedding. So Tony and Kelly, her adoptive parents, thought there was honestly nothing they could do, and that the best thing would be to support Katie. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's the best thing to do in this scenario, you know. But okay. So sure enough, she did end up giving birth. Police had done interviews with the two other children at the time, but they did his or her birth family. Some believe that this attraction is a delayed byproduct of missed bonding. They are not the first couple to have fallen in love. There's actually a lot of other cases very similar to this. And I've actually heard of that before, the missed bonding genetic thing, but from an episode of Community. When Britta, if you've seen the show, when Jeff is reunited with his father, and Britta's like, it's normal if you wanna sleep with each other, and they stare at her and they're like, anyway, apparently that can be a thing. Yeah. And it is disgusting and absolutely wild that this is how everything went down. And in my mind, I'm just thinking of Alyssa, the mother, because she was struggling in her marriage. That, I mean, she had stayed in this relationship for so long when it was so up and down, and then she gets, reunited with her daughter, thinking maybe this will be great, and all of this happens like in a very, very short period of time. It took no time for them to be physical, and then no time for them to get pregnant, tell the kids, like, absolutely mind-blowing to me. So the police had found the baby, the son, at Katie and Stephen's home, and Alyssa still struggles to kind of make sense of it all. She stated that she's grieving, sad, upset, but that she wants to have something good come out of this. If it's to get truth out there, to open people's eyes to incest, then I guess that to her is kind of the positive. It's to educate people, I suppose. Yeah. So, honestly, it's such a disturbing case, and like, it goes from 0 to 1,000 real quick. And I definitely had never heard of this case before. What about you guys? Is this something that, you've heard conversations on? Have you seen other videos about it? Did I miss any information? Let me know in the comments below. It's definitely a weird one for sure. And I find it so gross. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on it based on the research I did. People go crazy on this topic, and I get it. Yeah, it's gross and also incredibly sad. And this guy was terrible to his children, it seems. It seemed like, at least Alyssa was saying, there was a period of time where he grew up in her minds, but I think that the receipts here show that that's not necessarily the truth, but I don't know. Either way, regardless of the scenario, it is so sad